What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Foul Plugs Moto Show. I am Dave Drakes with the Collective Experience. Joining me, as always, the main man, the true plug, Mr. Manny Jones. What's going on, Manny?
What's going on, sir? How you doing?
Doing good. I mean, we had it feels like two back-to-back days of racing. So I'm, kind of spoiled right now. I'm on a moto break and I don't like it. I wanted to race last weekend. I wanted to race Monday. I feel spoiled and like I got into a cadence of, okay, moto every couple days. Now it's like I'm in a drought right now.
Exactly. It's like I'm fiending for it. I'm used to the back-to-back now.
Exactly. Plus out here, it's been raining like crazy. So I can't ride my dirt bike. I can barely mountain bike. You have, your Blue Cruise down. So it's like, come on.
I know. You're getting the itch.
No, yeah, me too. So we had some dope racing at REDDDDD. So first off, I didn't think we'd be going to REDDDDD at all this year. Everything was up and down, no fans, with fans, no fans, schedule all over the place. We got it in, we made it happen, but on a Friday and a Monday, which was crazy. I mean, I'm in the middle of work, in a meeting, in a call, and I look over, I'm watching some racing, doing my typing, whatever. So it was a little crazy. But it's also awesome to have racing back to back like that. And it kind of makes me like think about like major sports like basketball, football, and how they have games and playoffs like pretty regularly. Like, what'd you think about it? Did you dig the whole back to back format?
I like it. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of the racers probably weren't too pumped on it the second race,
No.
just because of the demand, I would say, like on the body. But I mean, from a fan's perspective, I was pumped. I mean, I was excited. You see the first race and you're like, cool. You get to see them, essentially run it right back and then see if people can, hold up, what they put out in the first one or essentially improve on poor results.
Exactly. There's a bunch of privateers in the back that were like, man, I am gas. I had to drive and work this week. I'm tired. It was definitely weird to see it. But from a fan's perspective, since you and I, we can't really go to the races too much, the 9 to 5 plus the COVID deal, all that stuff. It's nice to be able to have the racing back to back like that. I personally enjoy it, and I hope we can see more of it maybe in the future, without the whole COVID issue. But being mindful of the riders, like, recovery time and stuff like that. So I thought it was cool. Let's get it kicked off. Let's do a quick recap of REDDDD 1 as we're going to split them up 1 and 2. We saw Zach Osborne taking the overall. Super cool. I personally was rooting for Osborne, especially after the first overall that he got. I believe it was the first Loretta's. And he looked so solid. We've been going back and forth about it the past couple of episodes. And dude was looking pretty steezy. What do you think about how he's riding right now? And he's not the fastest dude out there every single moto. He's kind of maybe top 2, top 3. There's been some guys posting faster lap times towards the end of the races. What's your thoughts on Osborne right now leading the point series?
I think the biggest thing with Osborne is, he's got his confidence dialed right now. I mean, like he's figured out how to win. He's figured out, what he needs to do to get to the front. And I mean, he's put in some really good rides and he's always able to find, the podium at minimum. And every champion has always said it in the past, you got to figure out a way to be consistent. And he's done it in the 250s. He's figuring out now how to do it in the 450 class. And I just really like his racecraft when he's out there, to just watch him make his moves and kind of pick apart, how he's going to figure out how he's going to get to the front.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. The racecraft, the way he's able to meter the race, manage his lap times, know when to push, know when to hold back, know where the other guys are in position to him, knows when to conserve energy, knows how to circulate the track in ways that's going to, maybe work better for his bike, maybe not upset the chassis too much. All of that is dialed for him. And I think it goes back towards like past champions. All those guys, they really know how to do that. They're not just the fittest or the fastest. They're the smartest guys. They're the guys that can put the whole package together. So you brought up a really, really good point. Moving down the list, we've got Chase Sexton in second, which was kind of surprised me a little bit. I didn't think he'd put it on the box that soon. I was expecting him maybe like, the 5th or 6th round or whatever. So that was pretty awesome. I mean, or 6th or 7th round, I should say. And Justin Barcia, guy that you and I like, kind of waving the Northeast flag for us. Seeming like he's gelling with the Yamaha. And I feel like, I'm like, bro, where was this Justin Barcia 2, 3, 4 years ago, bro? Like, why, what about the Yami and what he's doing this year is allowing him to put up these great rides? Because now we're talking about him in the same breath as Muskin, Osborne, Tomac. Like, what have you heard from their camp? Like, what is what is we hear a little bit about development has been better. Like, what's been going
Yeah.
on? Why is this year different for him?
Yeah, I don't know what the secret is to the secret sauce that he's kind of unlocked this year, but I mean, obviously he said he's figured out a couple things with the bike. He said the bike is, you know, the best as he's felt in a while on the bike. And I believe, isn't this a contract year for him?
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm
so
saying. Like,
money will make you ride.
yeah, right. Well, you gotta eat. You gotta pay that rent. You gotta
Exactly. So when you gotta keep the lights on, you hold it wide open a little longer.
Exactly. So no, I feel that. I mean, I definitely get it. I just wish we saw this Barcia a couple of years ago, because you know we like the way the dude rides. He's controversial. I'll just say that. But
Yeah.
when he's on it, he's the coolest, flashiest rider to watch. I mean, take you back 2 races when we were at Ironman. The dude looked like Stewart, like throwing the bike around, just charging. It was dope. So to see him up there has been really great. And he's beaten guys like Marvin Musquin and Tomac and Cian Cirillo, who are stacking it 4, 5, 6, not in that order. So that's really cool to see. And I hope we can see more of this. I hope that Barcia can still play a spoiler up his stock enough to where he lands himself a great ride. I'm hearing gas-ish here and there. So hopefully 2021 he lands a good ride and he carries this momentum forward. I want to see Barcia up there more. I want to see Barcia like, oh, Barcia got to win, or Barcia's playing spoiler. I want to see that, man. It makes the races more exciting as a fan. I want to see that. It makes it more dope, man. I hope we can continue that on. And if we keep going on the list, we've got a guy I want to talk to you a little bit about, Christian Craig in 7th, and Blake Baggett.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've all seen the races. We know what happens in Red Bull 2. We'll get to that. Baggett is coming on kind of late, but Craig, what do you think about Craig? Is this a good ride for him, or are you expecting him to do a little bit better?
I think Christian Craig's, he's always ridden the 450 well. And I mean, like, even from back when they first, you know, started trying him out on it, I mean, he essentially, he always gets really good starts. And he always knows he can run up front and not really get dropped. So, I mean, I've been seeing really good rides from him on it. I'm really curious to kind of see what he does, like when he really puts a full 450 program together. I mean, like, I feel like we always get that taste of him on the 450, and now we're almost like accustomed to seeing him on that 450 outdoors, which is weird. So it's like, it's almost as like I don't look at him as a 250 rider when he's on the 450 outdoors anymore. Now it's like he almost just fills in with the field, which is kind of crazy.
Exactly. No, I'm a little bit kind of disappointed because I know what a great rider he is. I expect him to be more top 5, but at the same time, how stacked the field is right now, and you know he hasn't had that much time. At least this season, we saw him in Supercross, blah blah blah, on the 450. So maybe it's gonna take him some time to kind of stair step and get back to the Christian Craig that we kind of expect in the top 5 arena, maybe top 6 or whatever, which is not a big step for him. Honestly, he's super talented. As we go down the list, I do want to talk about some privateers. Now, we are a privateer program. I want to highlight the privateer heroes of the sport that are doing really well. I will consider him almost like a semi-privateer, talking about Max Anstey keeping the RM Army alive and doing great on the Hep Suzuki. He's getting great starts, putting a yellow bike in the top 10 pretty regularly. So it's really awesome to see a Suzuki, which people think is like super archaic, and they have a solid bike. Guys in the know that bike is pretty solid. I mean, it's not the lightest, not the most tech savvy, not the newest, but you can do a lot with it. It corners well, and it's a solid bike. But I want to mention our buddy, I should say, Henry Miller, the Minnesota native that is consistently putting that KTM top 10 positions, top 10 rides. This dude is probably 1/10 of the support that the guys have that he's beating, and he's doing it. He's making it look somewhat easy, man. I mean, how is a privateer able to ride like so smooth, so consistent with powerhouse guys? I mean, what do you think about Henry Miller as a rider? Do you think like it's just natural talent? Do you think he's working hard? Do you think he just has some magical bike? Like, what do you think are the pieces that's getting him these good positions?
I think it's like a good mix of both. I mean, obviously, we know he puts in the work, and then on top of that, he's a really talented rider, a really good rider. And the one thing I think that I always keep my eye on is he gets really good starts. And like, so I'm never surprised when I see him, come around the first turn, and he's always, essentially near the top 10. And so he always puts himself in good positions to either race up or not get caught up in the back of the field where he can kind of really settle into his pace.
Yeah.
And so, and we've seen it over the years. I mean, we've seen him pull a whole shot before, so it's not anything out of the ordinary.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. I think it's a combination of the guy is just talented, has a good solid bike underneath him, and he's willing to put the work in, and he knows these tracks pretty well. So, guys, please show Henry Miller some love. Follow that dude, and keep an eye on him because he's moving. Another privateer that I want to talk about is SGB Racing's Justin Rodbell. This guy is on a privateer effort. We were talking to AJ Cat a couple shows ago, who's on that same team for Supercross. Very likable team, great resources behind them, but they're still privateer. And Rodbell's making a splash right now in outdoors, doing phenomenal things for that bike. Hooking up with those Maxxis tires, shout out to Maxxis tires, and he's making it look relatively easy, kind of like Miller. I mean, if you watch his Instagram and stuff like that, the dude does like rev limit on the start, which is kind of crazy to me. But he looks really good. Doesn't look extremely gassed after the motos. Yeah. I mean, I want to know the difference between what Rodbell and Miller are doing versus some of the other guys. Guys like Luke Renzlin, like an Etignap, who we know Etignap has the world of talent. The guy's super solid on a HEP Suzuki, knows the bike, has some good support behind him. I want to know what the difference is with those guys versus, like we said, the Henry Miller and the Justin Rodbells, and see like what that disconnect is. A few guys that we're excited to see kind of progress and keep moving up. John Short, Cody Schock, and Tyler Bowers. So Bowers, I'm used to that guy being top 8. You know what I mean? Outdoors and in. It seems like this year it's been a little bit tougher for him to kind of get going. Now, we did talk about the whole talent pool and work ethic and riding ability is being raised. You know what I mean? The guys are pushing in every portion of the track. I mean, you look at the roster, you look at top 5, 5 through 10, 10 through 15, all of those guys are pushing. Like, they just raise the bar. They're pushing from gate drop till the checkered flag nonstop. So I think it's going to take those guys maybe elevating their riding a little bit more. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like when you look at even just if you want to get technical and you break down and you start looking at just the lap times of the guys that are from first through even 15th, and then third's running consistently pretty fast laps throughout the whole motos.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of like where you start to see a little bit of a taper with the guys right outside of earning points, outside of that top 20, is you'll start to see a little bit of the drop off.
Yeah.
And not to say that they're not putting in the work or anything like that. I just think it's really hard to run, your best lap for that long of a race. And on top of trying to make passes and move forward and things like that. So I think that's kind of some of the difficulty I would say that maybe some people run into.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, man. And I want to also give a shout out to Jared Lesher. Dude is super solid, great Supercross rider, and he's progressing every weekend. I think he had some decent rides a couple of weeks ago, as well as Jeff Walker, social media star. Definitely check out that guy's YouTube. He does a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff and gives you guys a really cool insight. And Jeremy Smith, teammate to Justin Rodbell in the SGB, also doing pretty decent, keeping it up there, able to make the show. Hopefully, again, all these guys that we're naming that are in the back half of 2020 on down, they can figure out what that next step is, whether it's the added effort in the motos, figuring out a bike setting, or it's the fitness aspect of it. But we want to see all the privateers keep progressing, keep doing what they do, and be sure to leave us a comment, let us know what privateers we should keep an eye out or maybe talk about, and be sure to again follow these privateers that we're talking about, show them some love, and keep them going each weekend. Now, Manny, let's move on to 250s. We're going to breeze through these pretty quickly. We saw Jeremy Martin lead with a 1-1 at the first REDDDDD. Not too surprising, seeing how he's been the most consistent and is right below Dylan Ferrandis in terms of speed. Is there anything about the top 3 that surprised you, with RJ Hampshire being second and McElrath being in third?
I mean, I told you keep the eye out on RJ Hampshire last time we talked.
You did.
I was just I've been really hype on just the way he's been riding this year. Honestly, I mean, the guy seems to have it all figured out now, and I think his body's healthy underneath him right now, and he looks really, really fast on that bike. So I think also, like most races, like he's like a tenth off of in that raw speed that we all see Dylan has.
Yeah.
But from everybody behind Dylan, he's there. So I think he's a threat to win literally every week now with everybody else, just because now he's proven to himself that he can do it.
I agree with you. I can't go against anything you just said. I wish that we saw more of even starting between Martin and Ferrandis. Ferrandis is on a rocket ship. You know, you have a Blue Crew bike. Those things are fast as heck. Those things are insane, wild, crazy. And to see that Martin is whole shotting a Blue Crew bike, it's like, bro, what are you doing, friends? Are you sleeping on the gate? Like, get your settings set up so that you can make it easier on yourself instead of coming back from 30th place and you're giving up mad points to Jeremy Martin coming in like a fourth instead of a first, where you obviously should be being the fastest, most skilled rider. So honestly, the top three doesn't surprise me. Hampshire, solid. McElrath, a solid dude. One thing I do want to note that we talked about a little bit before we started airing was Masterpool leading so many laps. This dude is a absolute beast. Now he's kind of lighter and he's on a fast bike, but is this like a case of almost like a case of he's a rookie. He's hyped up. He's got short bursts of energy, and he's kind of go fall by the wayside. Or is this a precursor to like the next dude who's going to be the man in the class? Is he the next dude up because he's doing this early?
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's the thing. I was trying to figure it out. Like obviously the first Red Bud, I didn't know. I was like, maybe this is a flash thing. You know, the guy's coming off an injury. He comes back out, shows blazing speed, and we all knew. I was like, okay, he's probably still gonna have to race himself back into shape because he's just laying out heaters. But then when he comes and backs it up again, the next 2 days later, I'm like, okay, no, he really has some speed. He's really showing it. It kind of reminds me of kind of like in Supercross Jet Lawrence when he came out and he just showed some blazing speed, and it was really like, whoa, okay, let's really reassess this and see where we are with that.
Exactly. I agree with you, man. I'm excited to see what happens when this guy gets a little bit more man muscle, gets his the nerves knocked down, because the guy can. I mean, he's gapping these dudes in the first like 9 laps. Like he's pulling a big gap. Once he kind of settles down, I'm sure he's got arm pump. I'm sure he's nervous. Once he gets that figured out, I guarantee you this dude is going to be an absolute threat. He's probably going to end up being like a mini Ferrandis, and then just I'm going to get the whole shot, just smooth my way on the track, leave these guys behind, peace, done. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. Also, another factory guy I want to talk about is Maccadoo running the lone Cowie flag. It's so weird for me being a kid that grew up in like the Villapoto PC era, where PC is not the main bike right now. PC, I feel like they're struggling almost to have a presence in the pro class now that Darius Sinai's pulling out with getting his shoulder worked on. I believe it's a shoulder. And Maccadoo like running the lone PC bike. Man, I really hope that these guys like kind of get their mojo together. Actually, we do have who was it, Mitchell Harrison too.
They picked Harrison up, and that was a decent pickup. He put some good results in for Red Bud 2. So Red Bud 2 he put in the top 5.
I'll give him that. I just wish it was more consistent. I wish like we weren't only talking about Martin, Hampshire, and the Blue Crew guys. I wish it was also Cowie. Also we've got Hartranft in the in the KTM. So I wish it was a little bit more parity there in the class. Moving down, I want to give a shout out to Hardy Munoz. So a lot of guys don't know about Hardy Munoz, dude from South America, from Chile. He had a great Loretta's last year, 2019, I believe. Didn't he win a title in the pro sport? I'm not mistaken, or one of the faster classes. The dude is super, super solid, and he grabbed a 22nd just outside of points paying position. You got to look at the guys who he's going up against. I mean, Pierce Brown, right in front of a factory guy, Jaleel Swall, factory guy, Mitchell Harrison, factory guy, Mason Gonzalez, factory support. So all that stuff, man, it's like having a rider who's kind of under the radar in terms of hype come up and are doing battle right below or just right in front of the guys who are on factory support, who are super hyped. That's pretty amazing, man. So shout out to that dude. Our buddy Jerry Robin, still steady climbing, one of the more talented guys. Expect to see once Jerry can figure out what that mental block is in terms of maybe like a confidence deal, because we all know Jerry's fast. Jerry's super fast. One of the most talented dudes, I will say, in the 250 class. But if Jerry can kind of ride the way he's supposed to ride it and not have too many distractions, that guy can be an absolute threat. So I want to see exactly what he can do. And maybe one dude that you're probably familiar with, being an amateur know-it-all, is Josh Varese, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Privateer bike and looking pretty solid.
yeah. And Joshua is another guy I want to shout out. And also one more guy, you know, we got to shout him out, is Joe Tate, Connecticut, putting him on the map.
Yes. Exactly, 100%. Us both being Connecticut guys, seeing somebody out of Wilton is pretty cool. So, guys, again, all these guys that we're mentioning, please give them a follow, check them out. We got Gabe Gutierrez in 31st from Mass too, so we'll claim him. You know, we're on the border, so he's a New England guy. But yeah, overall, I think it was a really cool first showing for a lot of riders, 450 and 250 for REDDDDD. Great racing action. Few guys didn't do as good as we thought they would do, but also there's some guys that we thought would kind of be a little under the radar that showed us something. So I feel that it was a overall pretty good race. And if we bump up to REDDDDD number 2, we'll breeze through the 450s. Our boy, the monster Cowie mounted 450 rider of AC, finally got his overall with a 1-3. He was looking good.
Yeah, I was super pumped for him, man. He finally put it together. I knew it was just in time coming. He put 2 motos together, consistent motos, and he looked really good.
Yeah, he did, man. I think he's gelling with his bike pretty well. Almost seems like he's gelling a little bit better with his bike than Tomac is sometimes. We both know their setups vary a little bit. I think Adam's on Showa while Eli's on KYB, if I'm not mistaken, or vice versa.
So. Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a difference in their setup. So yeah, it's just weird that I don't want to say that Adam isn't their main guy, but you figure the past champion who has known this bike very well would have a little bit better setup. But it just goes to show, again, the parity increasing for 2020. We also have Blake Baggett, who had a moto win in the second moto. And this was the Blake Baggett that we've seen, what was it, 2017 or 18, when him and Baggett were going back and forth. Or sorry, him and Tomac were going back and forth. Dope stuff right there. That was like, he was gone.
Yeah, that was the Baggett that I've been waiting to see. And I think that was kind of like one of those things where I was talking about before, where he proved it to himself that he could still get up there and run that pace. And I was watching, post-race interviews, and he was saying, like, he was starting to question himself if he can still run up front with the guys, and he proved it to himself. And I think that's really good to kind of get one of those in the bag. And I think we'll start to see Blake Baggett, pull out a little more sauce from week to week now.
Exactly. And honestly, for a while, I was like, man, is he getting lapped? Why are they showing him so much? I'm like, yo, he's in the lead. Where? Okay. Like, this dude is actually putting something together. That's solid. So I hope we see more of that. Like, we both like Baggett. We think he's a phenomenal rider and a great bike. I just think he's been riding like really below par lately, man. And again, these guys are all mental cases. They're all confidence riders. So let's see how far this confidence boost takes him. We've got Osborne keeping the points chase alive with a third solid podium position. And this is what I'm talking about, when he can manage those rides and not overdo it. Like, yeah, he didn't get a win in, but at least he was able to, do a 2-2, solid performance. That is consistent. That is great. Keep that points lead. Be more consistent than a lot of these guys that you're racing against. That's how you do it. Not too much of a shakeup in terms of the top 10. We didn't see Sexton up there. He kind of faltered a little bit. Tomac's a little bit better on that race with the fifth. But I do want to talk about some privateer guys that are moving forward. We see Henry Miller picked up a 16th. Just talked about how great he was in the first one. Better that performance with a 16 at the second REDDDDD. We also have Freddie Noren did a little bit better too. I kind of figured Freddie would be just a tad better, but like we keep saying, the progression in the talent pool is just getting better and better and better, and these guys are putting more and more work in. What privateer kind of caught your eye? I know we talked about a couple just now, but like who in that maybe 15th to 40th position kind of was like a notable for you?
Well, right before we get to the 15th, I did want to touch on Jake Masterpool. Put it in
I didn't even see him.
And that was big. I mean, I know he's got speed too.
Yep.
Obviously he doesn't have all the big factory support that his brother has, but he's really fast. He looked really good. I was happy to see him put that in the top 15.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out.
Tall guy. No, that you're absolutely right. I mean, he's two-digit rider, which I think he's overlooked for a two-digit guy who is that fast. People they don't talk about him enough. You know, that put some respect
Yeah.
in his name a little bit, because he does have some solid rides, and I think this will be almost like this the start of something that could springboard him into some more, I'm going to say, more solid top 15s on a more
Yep.
consistent basis. So that would be awesome. We got our man Rod Bell doing
Yeah.
it 18th also. So like we just talked about, seeing that progress and seeing these guys continue to keep pushing and getting closer and closer. Shout out to the SGB racing team. And we got John Short and Jeremy Smith doing a lot better in the second one. Still outside the top 20 points paying, but we're getting there. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Adam Entignap. So we talked about him a little bit, and the you know, talking about Redbud 1 and a little bit from, like, I think Ironman, and as well as the races before that. What do you think Adam needs to do to turn his season around outdoors? Now, we know he's a Supercross specialist. It wasn't on the top of his list to be able to do outdoors. What do you think what do you think he's missing right now? Is it a fitness thing? Is it bike setup? Is it like a mental thing? What do you think Adam needs to do to be able to get in those positions that we know he should be in, which is top 20, maybe even top 15? Do you think it's more, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like what exactly is his thing.
Yeah, it's sometimes with a guy that's talented like him, it's kind of hard to figure out, to necessarily put your finger on it sometimes. I mean, obviously, like a lot of guys always say, you know, if I get a good start, I can run. If I get a good start, I can run. But then it's kind of like, okay, what trickles down to behind that for you to, you know, put yourself in those positions do you need to do? I mean, I'm never going to question any guy that rides professional Supercross and motocross fitness, because these guys are all in tip-top shape. They're all in way better shape than I am, and I like to consider myself in good shape.
Yeah.
So it's just, honestly, I really think sometimes it's a mental thing. Like, and you hear so many people start to touch on that a lot more and more and more now. So I think it's just, you know, being able to put yourself in those positions, like, because obviously, like you said, you know, the bike's good. So I don't think it's, unless he's struggling with a setup thing that he's not really discussing with anybody, I think it's just kind of figuring out what he has to do to put himself a little bit closer up to that group that he knows he should be around off the start.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And another rider that I want to talk about in that same breath is Tyler Bowers. We just mentioned him, but I'm starting to see like a trend of him kind of like going a little lower, then up two, then a little lower, then maybe bouncing around. And you know for a fact that his bike is solid. The Trigger Racing team does a great job with his bike. Tyler's a household name. The guy is extremely talented, multi arena cross winner, multi race winner, almost got a title in 250 Supercross. Yeah, he's super solid, and I want to put him in the same breath as Entignap. Like, hey, you know you can do better. You know you're talented. You know you've got the great equipment, great teams behind you guys. Let's see that good start and managing these better rides. Like both those guys, I feel are worthy of above a top 20 ride. So hopefully they can turn things around and get there. And you can't talk about 450 guys without talking about Alex Ray. Such a bummer of a season this guy's had, man. And most people are saying like, oh, hey, it's, you know, the team sucks and A-Ray sucks. I'm like, no, the team is great. The team, SGB does a great job of getting these guys the resources that they need. And Alex is extremely capable, talented, and fast. This guy puts in a lot of work, got his fitness where it needs to be, and he's easily a top 15, 16, if not better guy in Supercross. And you have to imagine that can translate to a pretty solid outdoor rider as well. I think it's just a matter of unfortunate events that are leading up to bike malfunctions and A-Ray just not making the cut for a lot of it. But you do have to say, like, both A-Ray and the team, they're good, Manny, right? I mean, it's not one of the
definitely. Yeah, exactly. Definitely. I mean, if you watch A-Ray's social media and stuff like that, the guy's putting in the work. He's riding all the time, and he just like, it's hard not to be gutted for him when he gets a mechanical like that. But I mean, I'm sure, like he always does, he'll bounce back, and we'll see him get some good results before the season's up.
Yeah, exactly. And I want again, we want to see all of the privateer guys continue to keep progressing. Shout out to like Scott Meshy, Jeff Walker. Shout out to Robbie Wageman, Lesher, John Short, Cody Shock, all these guys that we know can continue to keep progressing, continue to keep riding this wave that we have going on in 2020. There's things, all this stuff can happen. It can go left and right. So hopefully these guys continue to keep progressing. And we're going to move on to 250 Redbud 2, where we saw your boy RJ Hampshire take the top spot going 2-3. Would you have imagined us talking about RJ Hampshire this much last year? If we could get a teleporter, be like, hey, who's the guy that we're gonna be talking about a lot in 250s? If that dude was like RJ Hampshire, would you have punched him in the face for being crazy?
Honestly, there's no way, honestly, I would have rung RJ Hampshires into a top 3 conversation last weekend,
No.
last year. And I mean,
Yeah.
and that's no discredit to him at all.
No.
It's just the reality and who the main guys we were talking about last season. So I don't think anybody besides himself saw this coming. You know, I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was putting the work in. He knew where he should be. But in a matter of everybody else, I don't think anybody else saw him coming out this strong.
I didn't. We've talked about it a little bit. I did not see this guy doing that well, especially after the surgery and the rehab and stuff like that. And I'm very much on the RJ Hampshire fanboy bandwagon right now, hoping the guy does solid rides. I'm still pulling for Ferrandis for the title, but I definitely, he made me more of a fan just by the hard work and the grit. And you can tell how grateful he is for the change up in his program, for the guys that he's around, and just for every position that he gets. That's that's top 3 or top 5. You can tell that he's like, man, this is great progress. I want to keep pushing. I don't want to take this momentum for granted, this confidence for granted. And it's really nice to see another face and top step of the podium doing well. Someone besides Blue Crew, sorry, Manny, but it's really great. It's really great to see parity, not even only amongst the riders, but amongst the brands that are winning too. So we can't talk about this without talking about the controversial pass that Ferrandis put on Martin, which led them both to the ground. What's your take on the crash, Manny? What do you think about it?
I understand where he was coming from in his urgency to try to make the pass. Yeah. I didn't see it happening, honestly. The smooth, it was forced to me. Yeah. And so in reality, it was just funny, honestly, as a fan's perspective, just to see how J-Mark goes down and he does the full front flip and everything. Like,
no, what are you doing?
It looks so exaggerated, the fall, and Ferrandis just hops right up and keeps going. But then you forget how little J-Mark is. So something like that is obviously going to be way more exaggerated.
Right. What if we start doing that? What if the guys start over exaggerating tip overs and they start rolling like a soccer player holding their shoulder and getting the attention and stuff
motocross flop. They're flopping.
Motocross crazy. But you should have saw my face when I saw that crash. I was like, yo, Ferrandis, what are you doing? You should have known that wasn't. You had this much room to fit 2 full-size dirt bikes going into a rut that was even tinier. Bro, what are you doing? This is almost I don't want to say as bad as him and Craig and Supercross, but I was like, think you could have waited a corner or two. I get you're rushing. I get you want to do that, but bro, you got to slow down. That things you can't afford. Not number one to throw away a good position with a crash, a good points paying position when you have to get up, start your bike, and you're in 15th, not 5th anymore. As well as you got eyes on you from the Supercross stuff. Dudes are wanting to protest you like crazy. You
it's
together, bro. What do you know what I mean?
He's not looking to go out to dinner with anybody, honestly, with the way that he rides.
And I'm not saying he's dirty. He's dirty. I just think he's so blinders on. I want that position. I have to make up spots that sometimes I think he kind of has a little bit of a lapse in judgment. But other than that, I hope that these 2 guys can stay on the bike. I wouldn't mind them dicing and pushing and rubbing paint. That's part of racing. That's dope. We love to see this. But don't take each other out. Come on. Because now I'm now my fantasy's all messed up and I got to start throwing things around the house. Come on, please.
Exactly.
Moving down a little bit. Got to give a shout out to Styles Robertson, Mason Gonzalez. They're getting solid for a while. We only saw Gonzalez putting in good results, but it looks like someone notified Robertson that he's on a professional race bike and he's on a factory team, so he has to start putting in those good results. So that's really good to see those guys moving up. Again, we're gonna talk about Jerry Robin finally getting in the top 20. Let's keep that momentum going, putting that privateer ride up there. As well as a few guys that I really haven't heard much from, which is Joey Crown, putting in decent rides, and Matthias Jorgensen, who was on the PRMX team with our bud Cade Clayson, who hasn't making the spot in on the gate for himself and qualifying decently. I think that's one guy who has a solid bike underneath him who can progress. European rider from Denmark.
Yep.
Pretty decent in Supercross. I think he's in the 450s, if I'm not mistaken. And he's got the pieces to the puzzle, I think. He's one of the privateers that's driving himself to the races, making ends meet, trying to, do what he can to get to the pro motos. I think maybe it's going to take a little bit for him to kind of get comfortable on some of these newer tracks. I'm not sure if he's been here in years prior other than Supercross. So I want to see if he can best his position right now. I want to see if he can get into the top 20, get some points paying positions, and maybe even have some more eyes open to the PRMX team, which is a great group of people. Also, shout out to Jared Steinke, the Stank Dog, a lot of people's favorite rider, putting it up there on a Cowie. Really weird seeing him not on a two-stroke KTM, but still, it's dope to see him out there. So, Manny, what are your thoughts overall on the on REDDDDD too? Like, did anything surprise you? Anything stand out?
Yeah, one thing I guess we kind of started talking about it before we started recording was just kind of what's the deal in developing some consistency with the KTM program in the 250s. I mean, obviously, we see Harchinoff putting in good rides, but I feel like we get to see him have that consistent guy that's a threat to put it on the box every week, like how we're accustomed to seeing. And so, like, what's your take on that?
I have to agree with you. I think it's just a matter of other teams are snatching up these uber talented kids. I don't think KTM is behind the 8 ball in terms of development or the way they pick their teams or their nurturing of their newer riders. I think they do a great job. I just think the other teams might be plucking their kids a little earlier, or maybe they're doing something just a little bit different in terms of getting their guys ready for that pro debut, like getting like Masterpool, having a kid that's plucked right out of amateurs to see him ride as well as he's been riding, whole shots, leading laps. I think whatever Blue Crew is doing to get into that position, maybe KTM needs to take just a little bit different approach. Now, mind you, they have the full resources of Baker's Factory, of Austria. They're one of the best selling motorcycles right now is the KTM brand. And you got to imagine that they know what they're doing. I just think that the other guys have maybe gotten their guys a little bit more developed in certain areas. So definitely expect to see that change in the future. KTM, they're going to be around for a very long time, and they know what they're doing. They're going to see where the holes in their program are, and they're going to address those and get some great talent, nurture that talent, and start producing some more Ryan Dungys very soon. I can almost guarantee you that. And we also talked about it too. They're bringing up your boy Thrasher this weekend. Yeah. Like he's on the 250s, hoping to line up and make some noise. And he's been training with some of the guys at Baker's Factory. So
I'm excited to see what he does. Honestly, like
is that a good move?
I mean, at this point, why not? I mean, I was surprised to see him do it. But I mean, you can race two professional races and still keep your amateur.
I think it's two
to go back to Loretta. So I think I don't think that we're gonna see him finish the season out. I think maybe he'll do a couple races or something like that, and depending on how he does, we'll see him stay.
Do you think if he gets 2 top 10s, do you think KTM goes, you know what? Like, you're done in amateurs. You're coming up Supercross deal next year, which I'm sure he's already talked about. Is that a possibility? Do you think that they could do that with an amateur? We saw him do it with Dungey. Dude did like 1 race in B class and they plucked him out. I don't think he did the Reddas that year. Do you think that they could do that with Thrasher? Do you think they're in that dire need of some representation up there?
They have guys on their team, so I don't know I'm not a manager, so I don't know how that works in terms of a contract standpoint. But I mean, if the kid comes out and lights the world on fire, I'm pretty sure they'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I agree. Who is one amateur guy, maybe not in Orange Brigade, but one guy in amateurs right now that you want to see plucked immediately up into pro ranks?
Immediately. I don't know. It's hard because it's like, I don't know. Who would you say? Let me think on that for a second. I want to give it a fidelity.
Levi Kitchen. I would love to see what he can do. I would also, and this is controversial. Now he just got on big bikes. I would love to Ryder D, pluck him out of the training camp and put him on the game. I can guarantee you, I will give you this. The dude has been like maybe 3 weeks on big bikes. I can guarantee you this: he qualifies. I'm not saying he's going to go up there and be top 20. The dude will qualify.
That may have been your most controversial statement you've ever
I'm
seen.
just gonna say, obviously, they would never do it. Like, don't do that. But if you guys gave me a freebie, that would be fun to see him plug Ryder D and bring him up. And I'll say another controversial statement. If you leave a super mini, I think he still qualifies. I would just say that again. He's not going to be top 10 in qualifying, but the dude would qualify. I'm just saying. Now take what you want.
He still weighs like 60 pounds. Like
yeah, he's still light. So I mean, I'll just say that. But no, I'm excited to see what happens when they, with Thrasher this weekend.
Yeah,
we're going to Spring Creek. Wish I could go and watch that one, but got some obligations. So it's gonna be a pretty good one. Now we've talked about some racing, highlighted a bunch of privateers, talked about some what ifs. Now, Manny, it is time for the coveted drip check. Yeah. So we're gonna combine Redwood 1 and Redwood 2. Manny, give us your best 250 and your best 450 from both race days on who had the dopest drip.
Okay. So if we're going to talk about the 450s, I was telling you before we got online, I just been really digging that Alpine Star stuff. It comes out every week. Eli Tomac, the black Alpine Stars gear with the fluorescent green, yellowish color lettering, it's like almost like I need a kit of that. That stuff is so sick. Like, honestly.
I agree with you. I think I got a tie between the A Stars. Picking, honestly, either Tomac or Barcia, both those guys, I like their kits equally. I would say that also compared to I would compare them to AC's kit, the all black stealth.
Yep.
That was fire. So especially the way it's like more fitted now. They have a little bit of accent stuff here and there. I thought that was fire. So it's gonna be, you could literally pluck down either one of those three guys for 450s. So maybe 250. What are you thinking for dopest drip?
I was digging the Star stuff. So I'll give it to, I really liked, let's say, I did like Dylan's kit. Again, I'm trying not to, but I know I touched on the chest protector thing like last time we talked.
Yeah.
So, but it's weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm starting to like it. It's like,
no, I think it also helps when you win. Like, that's also like good. Like,
winning makes everything look
cool. You start wearing some jeans and Timbs. Like, you're winning. You look kind of cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chino. But for me, I honestly, that one's tough because like I said, I do like the Fox stuff. But oh man, this one's a little tougher for me, man. I'm gonna have to probably pull out the Blue Crew stuff, the Time Master Pool kit setup that he looked pretty solid. Again, when you're number one in the air, wide open, out front, whatever you got on looks dope. So, but I'll definitely give it to that kid. So, definitely keep an eye out for what you guys think is the dopest drips of each weekend. Leave us a comment, tag us, let us know what you guys think. And Manny, to finish this thing out, we're going to go into power rankings for this weekend. Who do you think is going to be your standout for 450 and 250? Who are some guys we should keep an eye on? Who's going to let us down? Like, give us the full rundown of what you think.
450, going into 450, guy I think I want to keep my eye on now for next week is Blake Baggett. I want to see what he does coming off that Moto win. See if he can carry some of that, confidence into the next week. Also, another guy who's been riding really well, Justin Barcia. Those are two guys that I have my eye on. I'm really waiting for Justin Barcia to get his Moto win this season. It's like I know it's gonna happen. I'm just trying to figure out when. So those are two guys that I really have my eye on. And then obviously I'm always going to be rooting for AC to get another overall. So
definitely. I agree with you. I think the guy to keep an eye on this week, I think Moskin is going to be a little fired up from not being on consistently on the podium. I think Muskin's going to be the guy to kind of surprise us. I'm going to say Christian Craig is going to have more of a lackluster performance. if you will. And then I think that Tomac's going to be pretty solid where he is. I don't see him doing better than like a 4th or 5th position where he's at. Manny, what do you think about for 250s?
For 250s, I think RJ Hampshire puts it on the box again.
Yep.
So, and I'm really curious to see, you know, what Shane McElrath will do.
Yeah.
He's been kind of going back and forth. He has really good speed,
Yes.
and he's been getting really good starts every moto. So those are two guys that I would say I really have my eye on coming up this week.
I'm gonna agree with you. I will say the guy that's probably gonna like shock me a little bit in a positive way. I'm gonna go with Alex Martin having a solid ride.
Oh my gosh, he's been riding really good.
Really, really good. I do like Alex Martin's setup. He's looking way better on the bike. I think they're getting that setup dialed. I think he's gonna have some hometown hero advantage too, because remember the guys live on the track.
Yeah.
So I think one guy that's gonna be pretty solid. Nothing too crazy. Carson Mumford. I'm gonna throw him and the other like Styles Robertson, Joe Shimoda, who's our Jalik Swoll. I see those guys being in like the 15, 16, 17. That's a very physically demanding track, and these guys they're all young. They don't really have that man strength quite yet. I do think this track is going to get run for their money in terms of fitness. I think it's going to kind of beat them up a little bit. Plus, it's been a little overcasty here in the Midwest. I'm only 4 or 5 hours from Millville, and it could be a little bit of a downpour, make the track that much tougher for those guys. And one guy that I think is not going to do too good, I'm going to say the Mitchell Harrison, the Cowie boys. Him or Maccadoo, I don't think they're going to have the best showing this weekend, especially if it starts getting kind of rainy. So there you have it, guys. Those are there are power rankings. But maybe you want to put something in there real quick?
I was just gonna say, like, I think I'm curious if the weather holds up or doesn't hold up on those rougher tracks and stuff like that. Like, I like Jerry Robin as a surprise ride. He seems to do pretty well when you get those surprise races where the weather gets a little choppy or things like that. And he's been putting in, like how we were talking about earlier, progressively better results. So don't be surprised if he, sticks another one up in the top 15.
I agree with you. Do not take that as gospel for your fantasy picks, guys. 'Cause trust me, I don't want anyone getting mad at me. Manny said it, not me. But I definitely I'll look this side. I agree with you. I think Jerry could have a solid weekend. He knows his track. He's again from that area, from Rochester. So it could be a solid weekend for Jerry Robin. So there you have it, guys. Power rankings. Manny, we've been very, very fortunate to have some amazing races. Even more fortunate for the interns and fans that have checked out the Collective Experience TCE MX Internship Program. We've had, I think it was 2 people the last race, 2 before that, and we're really excited to be able to offer race fans the opportunity not only to get in where a lot of people aren't able to because there's no general admission for a lot of these races, but you're getting a chance to go in and go behind the scenes and really help out these pro teams that need a hand, and you're getting experience in things like social media, program management, and race team management, mechanic work, your part procurement, so many different things. You're making so many connections, meeting gear guys, meeting manufacturers, things like this that can really form your career and really get you set up for your future in the sport, whether that be I want to be a racer, or I want to be I want a mechanic, I want to own a team one day. This program allows you to fast track and get to that dream of yours. Check out thecollectivexp.com, at thecollectivex on Instagram. Hit us up, contact at thecollectivexp.com with your questions, and we've got spots open for the remaining rounds. Manny, we're going to be in a treat for this weekend. I'm excited for the races. I'll be at a wedding on Saturday, but hopefully I can still kind of sit down and kind of tune in a little bit without getting yelled at. Guys, I want to say thank you for the support. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Again, check us out. The Foul Plugs, the Collective Experience on YouTube. Manny, I appreciate the time. Hopefully me and you can get to some riding pretty soon, so we're not going too crazy. And want you guys to do the same. So thanks, Manny. I appreciate it, and we'll chat soon.
All right, later.
All right, guys.
Hey, hey.